everyone, kind welcome back to my channel on Norse culture and Germanic languages. I am Irina, and if you like the topics I usually discuss about, feel free to like and subscribe and to leave me a comment about other topics you might be interested in, and I will do my best to research them and present short talks to you. For today, I have something interesting, I hope, as interesting as to gain me a couple of more subscribers, at least, the origin of the word book. So we're going to talk about the term book in Germanic languages mainly, but I will also go beyond the scope of this and try to discuss a little bit the etymologies in other languages. Mind you, I am not a linguist, I am a historian. However, I do have some knowledge of a couple of languages, and I'm also very interested in languages overall, because I consider that you cannot truly study history properly unless you have some fundamentals in linguistic training as well. Okay, so regarding the term I investigated for today, we have the term book. So I think you can probably guess that we have a old English ancestor first. So book just spelled with a C and just one O. The original sense was that of a written record or a message, so generally speaking, and it comes from an old Proto-Germanic root meaning beach. Despite the phonetic difficulties of tracing back this word, there is some kind of general acceptance that the sense of the root was that of beach, so the tree. There are also references or similarities to other Indo-European languages. So, for example, we have fagus in Latin coming from the same Proto-Indo-European root, and we also have phygos in Greek, which actually means oak. Anyway, the reference is to some kind of tree. What specific kind of tree that was is maybe not that important. However, we do have to note the fact that beech bark writing was rather unknown, at least at the time. The runes discovered on the pieces of wood, so on the sticks, rather come from birch. The birch trees, so not the beech trees. They sound very similar, but they're different kinds of trees. And the reference to book skins or book fells made out of beech bark seem to be a later development, so at least in relation to the time span of Old English, for example, so from the 5th until the 10th century. However, I think it is, though, logical for this to happen. So I mean, for people to also use beech bark, because this type of bark is very neat and very smooth. So we could actually imagine that people used to carve runes on this type of bark as well. And why not just simply inscribe trees? So not only use these wooden tablets, but also simply inscribe trees, like we also tend to do nowadays, you know, when we carve one or two names with a heart on a tree in the woods. That's imaginable also for the past. Anyway, the importance of the tree for the development of the word is the most relevant in the story. And then in the Middle Ages, the meaning developed to that of a work covering many pages, which were fastened and bound, and then also to the meaning of literary composition, as well as a subdivision of a greater work. Also, we should mention that in the Anglo-Saxon world, written charters were also introduced as evidence of the grants of lands, and they were also called books. So that was used as further evidence besides the actual delivery of the possession. And from this social reality, we also have the verb to book, which initially meant to assign by charter a particular piece of land. So coming back to the origin and etymology of the word, it's the same word everywhere in all of the Germanic languages. So you will find more or less similar writings and pronunciations in everything ranging from Old Saxon, Old High German, Old German dialects, Frisian, Old Norse and all its descendants, as well as Yiddish. Yeah, so for example, you have in Swedish Bok, in Icelandic you have Bok, yeah, Buch in German, and you also have Buchstabe, the word for letter in German. So basically the stab where you carved a sign, a linguistic sign. Okay, let's look at some other languages as well, because I also think this is interesting to see the developments beyond this one particular linguistic family. All right, so in Latin, for example, speaking of trees and their importance in this development, liber in Latin actually meant the bark of a tree, the inner bark of a tree. And it has a correspondent, for example, in Old Church Slavonic, where you have lubu, also with this meaning of a bark of a tree. And then in the Romance languages, you have descendants such as livre in French or libro in Spanish, and also Albanian took the word from Latin. Interestingly enough, Romanian, which is my native tongue, by the way, took the word from another Latin word, from carta, as we say carte, which meant a paper or a papyrus or a document. So it is a Latin word, but it is another Latin word, so not the word from which the other Romance languages adopted it. All right, in Greek we have biblio, which is a clear reference to the holy book, the scripture, and then it gained the more general sense of a book, whatever kind of book you can think of. In the Slavic languages, it's also very interesting. So in Russian we have kniga, we have książka in Polish and kniha in Slovak and Slovenian. This has been reconstructed as a Proto-Slavic word, possibly of old Turkic origin or Bulgaric Turkic. We have some words here in these old languages meaning book and scroll, and it can even go back to some Chinese words if you trace these developments on the map. Another possibility for the development of this word in the Slavic languages would be a connection to the Germanic languages, because we have, for example, the verb kuna in Old Norse meaning to know. We have a similar verb in Gothic as well, and we also have an Old High German word kenning, meaning a symbol, and it also bears reference to these complicated sets of metaphors used in Old Norse literature. So that could also be a hypothesis, especially if we think about the different contacts Slavic and Norse peoples had in the Volga region. But I repeat, there is also this very high possibility that the development of the word actually had to do with some Old Turkic and Bulgaric words for scrolls. Lithuanian also has this root from the Proto-Slavic word, but not Latvian. Latvian uses the word grammata. Interestingly, it's from Greek, yeah, from where we also have the word grammar. So this meant just letters, basically. It's not the only Baltic language taking this word from Greek with the initial meaning of letters. Estonian also have ramat, in Finnish we also have the word, but the word Raamattu means Bible. Actually, there is a different word for book in Finnish. It's kirja, which initially meant a carved mark or a carved decoration. Okay, so other interesting words would be, for example, in Armenian, which uses the word girk. Speaking of which, I'm deeply sorry if I butchered any of these words, which I've probably done. But anyway, let's stick to the point. Well, this word in Armenian is of a very, very old origin. It actually comes from Kaniku, which is a word in Akkadian, so this older language of the Near East, where it meant sealed object or bulla. So think of all these cylinder seals people used in this part of the ancient world. Yeah, so with the initial sense of stamped image, it evolved into meaning a book. All right, so other interesting languages would be Turkish with kitab, and of course here you can easily make the connection with Arabic with kitabun or al-kutab in the definite form, which also means scripture, by the way. So we saw in the Greek example, the initial sense was scripture, and then generally speaking a book. It's the same in Arabic, and the Arabic language actually lent this word to many other languages, Turkish included, but also languages in Central Asia, for example, in Uzbek or Tatar or Tajik, and many more. Okay, another word in a very interesting language, in Hebrew, sefer. It's a very old word as well. You can also find a similar word in Aramaic. And interestingly enough, this comes from a root not having to do with writing, but rather to counting. On the other hand, you have other related words to writing in Hebrew, which actually share the Arabic root. So, for example, ktiva means writing, or katav means writer. But on the other hand, the word for the holy scriptures, for the Torah, is Sefer Torah. Yeah, so it's literally the book of teaching. All right. In other languages, so we have, for example, the Indo-Aryan group of languages. So regardless of whether they're Indo-Aryan or Dravidian, a lot of languages on the Indian subcontinent, they borrowed the word from or inherited the word from Sanskrit. So in the form of pustaka, for example, meaning generally speaking document. This is also related to the Persian pust, for example, meaning skin, again a reference to book fells, book skins, and it also bears a relationship to the Parthian word for book, and in a lot of languages from the Indian subcontinent, for example, in Bengali, in Gujarati, Kashmiri, Marathu, we have similar words to the Sanskrit one. Interestingly enough, for the Hungarian Könyv, I think, I didn't really find any relationships to other languages, so it might have something to do with the Proto-Slavic root or not. Some kind of borrowings or networkings that might have led to a similar form of the word, or then again it might be a completely different word altogether. I think there is another language spoken somewhere in the area of Novgorod having a very similar form, although I'm not sure. If you have more information about the origin of the Hungarian word for book, I would be very grateful if you shared it with me in a comment. Okay, so I'm gonna end this video just by mentioning the fact that coming back to the original word I started with, so the Germanic word book, this has been exported outside of the European continent as well. So, for example, it penetrated some Austronesian languages such as Malay, Balinese, Indonesian, Javanese, and so on. taken either from the Dutch form or from the English form. You're also going to find some African languages where the word has been adopted, for example, in Somali, and even in the Hausa language in Nigeria in the form of boko, with the initial sense of alphabet, and then it turned into education, particularly Western education. So now you can better understand where the terrorist organization Boko Haram got its name from. So Western education is forbidden. So yeah, as an interesting piece of information for the end of this video. Again, I reiterate my small request. If you have more information about this topic, generally speaking, etymologies, other languages, for the word book, just leave me a comment. And if you found this talk at least a little bit interesting, I would really appreciate a subscribe as well. All right, so until next time, take care and see you soon.